Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the first day of August 2024. Well, Lammas blessings to everyone. The first of three harvest times here going forward. I've got my, we had our first cucumber the other day, and oh my God, was it sweet? It was incredible. Um, I just this is a time of year where we start harvesting stuff. We're starting to harvest blackberries and a little bit of raspberry. Although my raspberries look horrible, I'm gonna have to redo that entire bed, I think, and figure out what happened to them because they sort of were starting to die out last year. But anyway. The zucchini's going crazy. The corn is, we've got silks on, so not just tassels, but silks. So the corn's forming, and the potatoes are, I don't know what the potatoes are doing, but ever since we had that real high wind episode, boy, everything got blown down. Some of the corn got blown down, but we were to stand it back up. But the potatoes have never looked the same, so I don't know what's going to happen with those. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started here and let the rune happen here sometime when the final one it lands in my hand there. Let's see. Oh, we got Gebo. Gebo is the seventh rune of the Elder Futhark. It's about balance. Same with the numerology of seven. Seven's about observation and balance and letting. I look at the seven as a scale. I've done this before. Maybe I've still got the little post-it note here. I put it on, but it's like you have. Well, I had it. It's like if you draw it out, you've got three X's here for each pan, and then one up at the top. Well, 3 and 3 is 6, and 1 is 7. And so to me, it just, you draw it out, it looks like a scale. And so it really emphasizes the idea, the reason I always show this is it emphasizes the idea that you let everything settle out before you make decisions about something. All too often we do things very impulsively. We jump in, without really knowing all the facts. And so 7 is really about that. So to be the seventh rune of the Elder Futhark, I think, is kind of an interesting synchronicity there. It essentially means it's the link between people. It's marriage, it's partnership, it's balanced energy exchange. The key word is the gift. And I look at that as the gift of reciprocity. It's essentially, if you look at it, it's an X, and so it's Isa, which is alignment in spirit, essentially the Norn rune of the present moment, twice, aligning with each other in an X pattern. And then if you look at it in another way, you're looking at Kenaz, expressed outward in all directions. Kenaz is this. And Kenaz would be the sixth rune of the Elder Futhark. And so it's almost like it comes together and expresses outward the gift of reciprocity and of higher awareness. It's a higher awareness-based type of reciprocity. And again, with the idea of it being in the numerology of 7, again, that's higher self saying, wait a minute, before you react, ego reacts. Soul says, wait, make sure you know. Observe and understand everything. Well, you're expressing that light of spirit in all directions, essentially, with Gebo. And so it's a very powerful rune. It could indicate, obviously higher awareness, but at the same time, we're also, it could indicate expressing that outward to everybody in a way that's expresses fundamental truth, from a higher standpoint, from a soul perspective. Understanding, it's like there's times, you think, I've used this example before. There was this guy we knew who, he said stuff that was provocative and vulgar and, just stuff that you kind of go, what? And, what's his deal, And then you find out about his life and the tragedy that's been his life. And so, you can kind of understand a little bit more about him. And maybe this is just a defense mechanism to the world that he lives in. And based on all of the awful, truly awful things that he's experienced in his life. And so, maybe he's not as open. And so he acts this way to sort of keep people at bay or at a distance from himself. Because you always wonder, why do people act that way in ways that make people not like them, and so that would be an example of looking at him through the eyes of spirit, because you're less likely to judge him at that point. And just maybe you withhold all judgment, and you just say, well, this person's had issues that were really difficult to get through, that would be difficult for any of us to get through. And so that's the thing about seeing things from a higher perspective. That there's more to the story, and it's just something that you just want to wait and observe and know more. And so with let's see, I got a crystal in with my with my 4 elemental runes for geomancy. Oh, that's fun. It's like, wait a minute, something doesn't feel right in my hands here. Let's take a look at the lower side of things. Let's see, that is earth. That goes at the bottom. I'm going to put these in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. Well, this looks like Rubeus. Let me find Rubeus here. Rubeus is the complement of Albus. Now, Albus, it's Rubeus. Albus is the sage and wisdom, higher clarity, and stuff like that. Rubeus, on the other hand, is considered an evil rune because it's pure ego. So it's almost like soul versus ego. But it's ego on steroids, ego run amok. It's where you have to be concerned about the individual expressing this type of energy. It's somebody that engages in a misuse of force. And so it's violence. It's the cult leader. So it's somebody that it's a sociopath when it's really in its extreme expression. And so, when you're shedding light on everything here with Gebo, and you have the idea of partnering, you want to be careful who you're partnering with today. There could be somebody coming into your life where they are this way, that reflect a Rubeus type of energy, one that's controlling and manipulative and out for themselves. Whether that's an immediate partnership or who you support in life, politically, or it could be anything in that spectrum. And letting the light of spirit basically illuminate that truth here of what that type of a partnership, that type of integration would be like. So it's be careful who you. My husband has this expression, careful who you line up with, because that's you have. So maybe that's the awareness here today from the runes, is be careful who you line up with, and especially if you happen to be one of those type of people who can be a little manipulative about things. People are going to have to be careful that if they line up with you in that regard, because there's more to the story. Again, with the 7 numerology of Gebo, there's more to the story there, and you have to be very careful if it's a highly negative energy, like Rubeus. But again, we have a lot of ways that can happen. It could be maybe you're looking for another job and you interview in a variety of places, and there's one where you're just like, I don't know about that. I ended up working in a place like that, and I at the interview, it was just weird, and the person who would end up being my first supervisor was just, off enough that it was there in the interview, and and when I got offered the job, I was like, I don't know, well, I took it, and I ended up in a different position there, and it was better, but only for a time, and then I left. But it was one of those things where it was clear from the get-go that something was off there. And so, I mean, in the future, I didn't make that same choice, right? But it was a lesson that day of, hey, when you know something, you know it, and pay attention, and kind of is what it is. But anyway, so I've shuffled a little bit more, cut the deck, taken the lower half, and we have the Page of Swords, we have the Magician, and we have the Six of Pentacles. So I'm going to take a little drink of tea here. I think that I'm going to put the Magician higher up. It's in the center right now, but I'm going to put that actually a little higher up. What I mean by higher up is like this. So when you see, if you read the reading on the, I'm going to do a write-up on the blog over at Stepping Aside. If you read that, or you read, I do the same thing over on Patreon, Medium, and Substack. That's the write-up for today's reading, and there's a link to the video on Medium and Substack, and then on Patreon, there's the videos just embedded in it. But I like to do a write-up afterwards so people can kind of follow along if they want to do it that way. Some people are visual, some are more auditory, so, but anyway, that's going to be, the presentation is going to be like this, because this is a soul archetype card, being a major arcana card, and I want it to have a little bit more influence. The idea of what we're manifesting today, the development of will, and where we go with that. The Page of Swords is somebody who takes risks. He's the lower end of the court, the youngest person in the court. You've got the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. In some decks, hermetic decks, this would be the princess, and the knight would be the prince. And then sometimes in hermetic decks, the king is called the knight. I'm not sure why, but they have their reasons. But anyway, here, it's almost like you see the ground moving underneath his feet here. You see the trees, the wind is blowing the trees this way. And you see the clouds above, you see birds up in the sky, kind of in a lasso appearance up here. You kind of see a circle, and then kind of like a balloon or lassoing the wind or whatever. Swords reflects the air element, so it's our intellect. And pages are always about students or something new, or like a new opportunity or a new message or something. And particularly with the Page of Swords, he's vigilant, he's intelligent, he's diplomatic, but he's also, he can take risks, unfounded risks, and he's not really looking where he's leaning. He's looking to the past, maybe to see what's behind him, or maybe to take with him what he knows and what he's learned along the way as he leans into the future, maybe, or leans into the message he's bringing. But the idea of it is he could be risk oriented. And so instead of approaching things in balance, there may be a little more lack of impulse control, maybe not to the level that Rubius is talking about, but that could be part of it. With the Magician card from the Major Arcana, card 1, first there's the Fool, and then you have the Magician, and then you have the High Priestess, and it's sort of a triangle of experience, where the Fool is the soul taking its leap into form, into physical reality, into incarnation, and then you have the Magician's going to create, functions as the soul's creation, the invoking of the will, so to speak, to create the body and the environment and all of that the Fool is going to, or the soul is going to experience when it takes the leap into form. You look at all the tools here on the table, they reflect the elements, the 4 elements. They also reflect the 4 suits of the tarot. Here you have the lemniscate, or figure 8, on his head, above his head. You see a serpent, essentially, in Ouroboros fashion, as his belt. You see him in his as above, so below stance, with his wand pointing to spirit and invoking those spiritual energies, the soul energies, into form, as he points down to the earth here. You see it's all done with purity here, and newness. You have the same with the roses and the lilies. You have the roses up above here on the garlands above him. So it's and then the background of the card is yellow, which is sort of indicative of the light of spirit or the light of the sun. You don't see the sun, but it's the yellow of that, and that's generally relates to spirit and awakening and higher guidance, if you will. And that's what he's doing here. He's drawing in. He's like the funnel for the soul to manifest itself into form. And then the high priestess, which is card 2, develops the subconscious within, and is that link really between ego and the soul itself. That's that spiritual link or higher. It's basically a subconscious realm, and so it's the more astral side of self, in a way. But here we have in other words, the magician is essentially saying, be careful what you manifest. Be careful who you are. Be careful who you become. You don't want to become the Rubius character that can't be trusted, who's going to manipulate and control things. If that's you, then it refers to you. But if not, if it's somebody that you may meet today, be very careful when you're aligning with who you align yourself with, or as my husband would say, who you line up with. And so, because you're going to be known by that, and it can impact, the relationship that you already have going. If this is about collaboration, maybe you're bringing another person into the group. But if you got a funny feeling about them, maybe there's a reason for it. They could be somebody that tries to control the group, tries to manipulate, tries to take advantage of things in a way that maybe is subtle. You don't realize it, although you feel like something's funny. And you got to pay attention to that today. Because the link that you create, the partnership you create, could have a tremendous impact on things for you and for others if there's others involved. Now, it's interesting with Rubius that we draw the Six of Pentacles. Now, the sixes in the tarot show a sense of unevenness where somebody can give to another, so someone has something the other person doesn't. So there's a lack of equalness there. Sometimes you see that in terms of height with the Six of Wands. You've got the man of means, maybe the lord of the manor, riding in the scene on a horse, and the others are with holding his staff. You've got others following behind, on the other side of him. You can see them there with their own staffs, but they're down on the ground walking. So there's an unevenness there of power, but everyone's going in the same direction. Here you have an interesting one with this. I just get a visceral response to this guy. You see a man of means, again, offering coins to one. Both are holding their hands out. They're both on the ground, covered in blankets. Instead of having 3 coins here and 3 coins here, you have one here. So there's a sense of unevenness here, a lack of balance. You see the scale being held out of sight of his peripheral vision, okay? Almost like, when you see somebody cross their fingers and hold them behind their back like they're telling a lie and they want you to believe. You see that sometimes in the movies. You'll see that depicted that way, where the idea that they're hoping you're going to believe the nonsense that's coming out of their mouths. And with Rubius, that could be that. The person coming in has his own agenda and wants you to believe. It's like this. It's like the patent leather salesman with the patent leather shoes, the guy that is the con man, the con artist. So to me, there's an element of that here. It's not something where you have an equal giving. It doesn't show that. Now, maybe it's going to happen. Maybe it's implied, because a lot of people who read tarot will read this in a more positive way than I am, because he is offering something. But the other thing he's not doing is he's not raising them up out of poverty. He's handing him a few coins, and it's questionable whether or not he'll do the same for this guy. Like he's kidding himself as to what he's actually doing, that he's actually helping the people. He's not giving them a job. He's not saying, hey, I've got a friend over there who's got a mill or something and they need help, and let me take you over there and see if we can't get you some employment. Now that would really help the people and raise them up out of poverty, which they're not doing here. And so with the 6 numerology, you're looking at empathy and guidance and assistance. So it starts out in a positive way that he's giving assistance, and we can assume he's going to do that. But is he? And with the scale, and the other part is with the scales being out of his periphery, is he fooling himself that he's doing something that's in balance, that's he's actually doing what needs to be done, truly assisting people here. So in that regard, we have to say, is this card sort of aligning here, lining up, as my husband would say, with the Rubeus energy? And I have to wonder, so how you manifest that today, how you manifest that partnership with others matters. You have to do it from a soul perspective where you're letting things settle out, and with Gebo, and understand the entire picture with Gebo's numerology of 7, doing it all in balance with the energetic balance that the magician would have, being aware of the higher vibrations of things at work here, that will give you the information that you need to understand the situation you're dealing with. What am I really looking at here? Who am I really seeing here? What's going to be the impact of if I partner with this individual? Am I getting that inner voice saying that's maybe making me hesitate, and I don't really understand why? What's really going on here with this person? So if it is a person that comes into your life today here, and that's the message of the Page of Swords, where maybe you want to not be so impulsive, you want to not be so imbalanced with the information you're taking in and responding in a way that's not really looking at the whole picture. If there are gaps, maybe there's gaps because this person here is trying to hide that from you. Maybe he's somebody that promises something that really he doesn't deliver on, but he may gain from it, you see. So whatever ego boost he's getting out of pretending to help people but not really helping them, not helping them enough, then maybe that's the illusion that he's selling you, that he's there to fix everything for you, that he's there to help, that he's there to make everything better. But in reality, it's not for the people on the ground that he's really going to do that for. He's going to do it for himself and whoever he's aligned with, right? So you could see that sort of situation playing out. We're seeing it playing out right now in the country. So that's why I'm trying to say this could be a very generalized thing here today, where you're having to pay attention with who you line up with, as my husband would say, who you align with, what kind of a partnership are you creating, even if it's one of supporting a particular person's ideas or message or whatever. Is it really, are they really telling the truth? Or is it just another form of a con that's being done? Are you being played? And so again, how people manifest that within is going to matter. And it just seems to me that with the cautionary tale of Gebo and its numerology of 7, it's suggesting, well, you really want to be absolutely sure and do your due diligence, do your research. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't, and you could be inviting someone into your life that is really going to mess things up in the long run, in some way. And so if you look at the intellect with the page, if he's looking backwards there as he's leaning into the future, well, maybe he's trying to gather up what he already knows to make the best decision possible. And then the other side of him is, again, he may be, if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't do his due diligence, then he ends up taking an unnecessary risk that may seem exciting at the moment, because air can be very exciting, but at the end of the day, you're going to end up regretting what you did. So this is pretty general. We had a really spiritual one on Monday. So this is not that. This is the other side of the coin, but it's invoking spirit into your awareness so that you understand and you take the time to understand and you don't act impulsively when you're partnering with somebody else today. And again, if it feels weird, it probably is. And you don't want to have anything to do with it, because it could end up blowing up in your face. So take your time, understand the reality of it with the magician, invoke, he's invoking the soul elements essentially into form. Make sure it's all coming from that place, from a higher awareness perspective, and pay attention to the inner voice, and try to avoid the downfall of the Rubeus energy, because somebody like that, if they come into a group of people that are working together, or just you, or just one person, they can take things in a really bizarre direction that completely suits them and leaves everybody else standing there going, well, what just happened? And when Rubeus is here in a reading, that's a real misuse of force that's coming into play today. And with deception and lying and manipulation and conning and all of that, somewhere in the mix. And so be very careful today with who especially if somebody new comes into your life that seems great, but do a little more due diligence before you, especially if it's a work thing. You just want to be really careful there. It could be, you could be, if you're the boss, maybe you're hiring some people, and you're going through different applicants, and the one that just seems too good to be true probably is, and they've learned how to present themselves in a way that other people don't see them coming. They think they say all the right things, they're exactly what you need, and today it might be, well, maybe they are, but maybe they're not. So take extra time if it's something like that, to make your decision about what you're going to do, because that person coming in could really wreak havoc in everything. And that's generally what Rubeus energy does. It wreaks havoc, and you don't need that. So anyway. Oh, one last thing I did not do, and let's do that real quick here before we close. I had to restart my computer this morning. So we have 7 for Gebo. Page doesn't have a number. 1 for the magician, and 6. That's 14 reduces to 5. 1 and 4 is 5. So you're looking at change. You're also looking, though, at protection with the 5. Think the pentagram with the 5. And the pentagram is a very protective energy, because it's invoking all elements plus spirit into the equation, and in a very protective type of an experience. And so, again, something could be changing, and it could involve another individual that could bring in energy that you don't need. So just be careful, and see where it goes before you make, or where it might go before you make a final decision on anything. So anyhow, I guess that's it. Again, Lammas blessings if you celebrate. If you don't, try it. Just, if you garden, go out, grab some things from the garden, either make a garden plate or something, some raw vegetables, or I may make a soup. I don't know. But I think I'm going to have to take stuff from last year because I don't have enough. Although I have broccoli in the freezer that I harvested, so I could take some of that, and maybe I can probably grab some carrots and some zucchini, and the beans aren't done yet, though, but I got beans from last year, so I could do that. So at least they were harvested at some point. The beans are just they're climbing, and they've got flowers. I probably, if I go out there today, I probably have some beans on, but they're probably itty bitty. And so I won't have any of that, but I got lettuce and radishes. I think I have radishes. Ooh, no, I need to replant the radishes, but I still have some in the refrigerator that I harvested. So we could use those. And, even if we did like a salad, we could do something like that. Just anything that's from the harvest. If you garden, you can do something like that today. It's generally about harvesting wheat and making bread, but I don't grow wheat, and I don't make bread anymore. So I'm a gluten-free person, so I don't do that. But still, if you do, I mean, you could do that too. Make some bread, and if you like to do that sort of thing. I used to make bread all the time, but not anymore. But anyhow, have a good weekend. Check out the blog over at Stepping Aside. The web address there is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, click on more below the video. It opens up a window, and the web address is there. And if you scroll down to the bottom of all that stuff, you'll see everywhere I'm at on social media and other places where I write and all of that. So check that out if you would. Everything comes out in the midnight hours Sunday morning. And the Exploring Tarot series is over, and the magical herbal, the herbs for magic, I should say. I think I call it herbal magic or something. It starts with agrimony. So that's going to be coming out on Sunday morning. If you have subscribed to the newsletter, that comes out on Saturdays. You can find that over on the side panel over at Stepping Aside, and you can just put your email in there. You can unsubscribe at any time, and you get all that stuff for the week ahead of time. So a day in advance. So if you want to have the newsletter, if you want all that stuff in your inbox a day in advance of when they come out on the blog, you can sign up for the newsletter, and you'll find all that there. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Again, have a wonderful weekend. Lama's blessings, and come back again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.